This is the story of Daocheng Yading Airport, where human ambition meets the limits of human endurance at 14,472 feet above sea level. You're looking at workers, pilots, and passengers who've adapted their bodies and changed their lives to operate the world's highest civilian airport, built on what locals call the surface of the moon. Standing on the Tibetan plateau's Haizi mountain, this airport looks like something from another world. The terminal resembles a flying saucer, sitting silently on the rocky, barren landscape that stretches endlessly in every direction. But this isn't science fiction. This is a $250 million bet that humans can conquer one of Earth's most hostile environments. The numbers reveal the first part of this story. At sea level, your lungs fill with air that's 20.9% oxygen. At 3,000 meters, that drops to 14.3%. Here at Daocheng Yading, at over 4,400 meters, you're breathing air that contains just 11.2% oxygen. That's barely half of what your body expects, and it shows immediately. Dr. Joseph Rock, the American botanist who first brought this region to Western attention in 1928, could never have imagined that one day passenger jets would land here. When he gazed upon Mount Jambayang and declared it the finest mountain my eyes ever beheld, he was documenting a place so remote that it took until 1931 for National Geographic to publish his photos. Those images likely inspired James Hilton's fictional Shangri-La in Lost Horizon. Now, nearly a century later, that paradise has an airport. Construction began in 2011 with a staggering 1.58 billion yuan investment. That's $255 million for a single airport. Building at this altitude meant rewriting the rules of construction. Workers had to acclimatize for weeks before they could safely operate. Machinery performed at reduced capacity. Materials had to withstand not just extreme cold and high winds, but the constant stress of low atmospheric pressure. The construction team developed specialized protocols that read like preparations for a space mission. Advanced materials that maintain integrity in sub-zero temperatures became standard. Workers received mandatory altitude training. Environmental monitoring systems tracked everything from wind speed to oxygen levels. Because at this elevation, weather isn't just an inconvenience, it's potentially lethal. The runway itself tells this story of adaptation. Most commercial airports need runways around 2,400 to 3,000 meters long. Daocheng Yading stretches 4,200 meters, nearly 3 miles. This isn't excess, it's survival. At this altitude, jet engines lose 20 to 30% of their thrust because the thin air provides less oxygen for combustion and reduces mass airflow through the engine. Planes need that extra distance to generate enough lift in air so thin it barely registers on instruments designed for lower altitudes. The human cost becomes clear when you meet the people who work here daily. Pilots face the strictest requirements in commercial aviation. They can't be older than 55. The altitude stress on cardiovascular systems makes age a critical factor. They need 1,100 hours of flight experience with at least 100 hours on their specific aircraft type. Beyond the paperwork, they're dealing with physics that pushes both man and machine to their limits. Every pilot undergoes specialized training that includes theoretical sessions on how this airport's unique environment affects everything from weather patterns to emergency procedures. They practice in simulators configured specifically for Daocheng Yading's conditions, learning to land with reduced engine performance and navigate through weather that changes without warning at this elevation. The passengers tell the most dramatic stories. Many arrive unprepared for what 4,401 meters does to the human body. The symptoms start quickly: nausea, vomiting, dizziness, and severe headaches. For some, it escalates to high blood pressure, fluid in the lungs, and brain swelling, conditions that can kill. The airport's medical facilities include an oxygen room, but the equipment can't be taken aboard aircraft. Many tourists, having spent hundreds of dollars to reach this remote paradise, find themselves on the next flight home, defeated by altitude before they've even left the terminal. The airport's design reflects these harsh realities. There's no air conditioning, not by choice, but because of the engineering challenges at this elevation. The terminal spans 3 floors: ground level for check-in and restaurants, second floor for waiting areas with medical rooms and oxygen stations, and a third floor for commercial spaces. Every level is equipped with emergency medical equipment because altitude sickness can strike anyone, anytime. Weather monitoring here requires precision that exceeds most airports worldwide. The complex geographical environment and harsh climate demand constant measurement of wind, pressure, temperature, and humidity. Specialized aviation indicators like runway visual range become critical when visibility can drop to zero without warning. A sudden weather change doesn't just delay flights, it can trap aircraft and passengers in potentially deadly conditions. The people who've made this work represent different approaches to high-altitude survival. Airport staff, mostly lowlanders who relocated for work, face ongoing health challenges. Extended exposure to this elevation increases their risk of heart and lung disease. Many rely on regular rotations to lower altitudes to maintain their health. Some develop chronic mountain sickness, characterized by hypoventilation and pulmonary hypertension. Then there are the indigenous Tibetans, whose bodies tell a completely different story. Over thousands of years, they've developed genetic adaptations that seem almost superhuman to the rest of us. Their hearts and lungs function differently. They maintain higher arterial oxygen saturation at rest and during exercise. Their lungs are larger, with better function and greater diffusing capacity than lowlanders. Most remarkably, they show greater hypoxic and hypercapnic ventilatory responsiveness. Their bodies simply handle oxygen deprivation better at the genetic level. Recent research has identified specific genes in the hypoxia-inducible factor pathway that give Tibetans these advantages. Their hemoglobin levels and blood oxygen saturation remain stable at altitudes that would incapacitate others. They have an extremely low prevalence of chronic mountain sickness. For them, this isn't an extreme environment, it's home. The contrast becomes stark during peak season, July through September, when passenger numbers swell. The airport was designed to handle 280,000 passengers annually, but in reality, the numbers tell a story of gradual adaptation. The first year saw only 7,184 passengers, many likely tourists who arrived and immediately discovered they couldn't handle the altitude. By 2021, that number had grown to 155,474, suggesting that word had spread about preparation requirements and altitude sickness risks. The COVID pandemic provided an unexpected case study in high-altitude operations under stress. Passenger numbers dropped to 105,061 in 2022, but early 2024 data showed a remarkable rebound, with approximately 150,869 passengers in just the first 2 months. This recovery coincided with route expansions to Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, suggesting that despite the challenges, demand for access to this remote paradise continues to grow. Airlines operating here, Air China, China Southern, and Sichuan Airlines, have had to modify standard procedures extensively. Aircraft must carry emergency oxygen supplies for at least 55 minutes per Civil Aviation Administration of China regulations for airports above 2,500 meters. At 4,411 meters, though, those 55 minutes might mean the difference between life and death for passengers experiencing severe altitude sickness. The broader implications extend beyond aviation. This airport represents humanity's ongoing push into previously uninhabitable spaces. Railway workers along the Qinghai-Tibet Railway, which runs at similar elevations, face comparable health challenges. As commercial and scientific activities expand into high mountain ranges worldwide, the lessons learned at Daocheng Yading become increasingly relevant. The environmental and cultural costs complicate this human achievement. The influx of tourists threatens the delicate ecological balance of the Yading Nature Reserve. Local Tibetan communities find their sacred sites increasingly crowded with visitors who may not understand or respect the spiritual significance of these mountains. The 3 peaks, Chenresig, Jampeliang, and Chana Dorje, have been considered the abode of the gods by local Tibetans for over 800 years. Pilgrimage circuits that once provided solitary spiritual journeys now compete with tourist hiking trails. Yet the economic benefits can't be ignored. Tourism has transformed Daocheng County, creating jobs and opportunities for local communities that previously had limited economic options. The challenge lies in balancing development with preservation, maintaining the pristine environment and cultural heritage that make this place worth visiting in the first place. Looking ahead, Plans for infrastructure expansion include potential runway extensions and additional terminal facilities. Sustainability initiatives aim to minimize environmental impact while accommodating growing visitor numbers. These developments will test whether human ingenuity can truly create a sustainable presence at this extreme altitude, or whether we're simply postponing an inevitable reckoning with our biological limitations. The story of Daocheng Yading Airport ultimately reflects humanity's complex relationship with extreme environments. We've proven we can build here, that we can operate aircraft here, that we can bring tourists here. But at what cost? Every flight represents a triumph of engineering and human adaptation, but also a reminder of our fragility when we venture beyond the environments that shaped our evolution. For the Tibetans who call this plateau home, our struggles provide a different perspective. They've watched outsiders arrive with oxygen tanks and altitude sickness medication to visit places they've inhabited for millennia. Their genetic gifts, developed over thousands of years, allow them to thrive where others merely survive. This airport stands as both monument to human achievement and humbling reminder of our limits. At 14,172 feet above sea level, every breath, every heartbeat, every successful landing represents victory over an environment that doesn't care about our ambitions. The people who make this work, pilots, staff, passengers, and the Tibetan communities who host them, have all found different ways to adapt, to survive, to thrive in the thin air of the world's roof. Daocheng Yading Airport is more than infrastructure. It's proof that with enough determination, investment, and respect for human limits, we can reach almost anywhere on Earth. Whether we should, and how we balance that capability with responsibility to the places and people we encounter, remains the more complex question that each passenger must answer for themselves, one breath at a time, in the thin air of Shangri-La.